Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. It's a very happy Monday in Buffalo. Russ, start us off with the pre-show.
Well, I guess I'll start you off with the Mets signing of James McCann, who I think the average Met fan is happy that the Mets have a catcher. The weak argument is, well, it's the same money as Wilson Ramos, and it's an upgrade. The realistic approach is you might get 2 out of those 4 years as him being a good catcher. He's never caught over 112 games. He had half a season of good luck in 2019, and he played a really good abbreviated season last year, which I don't count for or against any player in this league because it was so bizarre. So I think they did well by getting a catcher. They needed a catcher. Do I think they spent too much in term? Yeah, I do. I think they could have outbid the Angels on a 3-year deal in actual money and done better, but that's okay. I mean, that's what they did, and I'm not going to kill them for it.
Jan, what did you think?
I mean, Russ and I had this argument over Facebook and a couple of things already. Look, I would have loved Real Muto. If Real Muto's price comes down to the point where his term or his dollars end up being a bargain, then we're going to look back on this deal as they may have overpaid. But I think part of the view was that they want to take the chance of missing on McCann and take the chance of missing on Real Muto and then get stuck with really nobody. In terms of the back end of the deal, I'm less concerned about years 3 and 4. I think the game plan down the road is Francisco Alvarez, who's in their system, to maybe be their catcher down the road. Granted, we all know prospects don't always pan out.
And catchers take a while, right?
Be the number one down the road, where McCann would probably shift to a backup role. If the cap has risen by then that's not a concern. And B, if the team has made the progression that Cone cares about, I really don't think he's going to give a flying you-know-what as to whether or not he's got to pay a luxury tax or not at that point in time. So
let me ask you this question, and I don't know. We don't know until he does pay the luxury tax that he'll do it. So I am not going to just assume he's going to do it. Let's say Realmuto now signs for 15 to 17 a year. You're still going to be happy with McCann?
No, I just said to Mike. I said if the term and the dollars on Realmuto drops, where it would have been more prudent for them to get him as opposed to the asking price, then we're going to look back on this deal that they made a mistake. But I think part of it is they wanted the bird in the hand because they didn't want to get shut out on potentially McCann and Realmuto. They didn't get any indications from Realmuto, I guess, that he was lowering his price in terms of dollars or years. Right. They figured with the Angels in the mix, and the Angels clearly as a potential favorite, they wanted to get McCann before he went elsewhere.
That is an old hat you're wearing, by the way. I have that hat, and I haven't worn it in a long time, but that's an old hat you're wearing.
This is
I have lots of old hats. I haven't broken them out yet.
This is the funny thing. The Angels apparently were in on McCann because for the same reason the Mets were, because he's a budget conscious catcher. I mean, $10 million as opposed to what Realmuto wants, which is around 20. They're supposedly now focusing on Kurt Suzuki rather on Realmuto could be stuck in terms of like he's not going to get $20 million from some team for 5, 6, 7 years. So maybe it wasn't as bad a decision by the Mets, but the thing is, if he gets stuck out there, then it could look bad for them because if he signs someplace for a year for $20 million.
Yeah, what if he signs with Philly for another year? Like that's,
Look, it's a risk they took. I guess they may have played the marketplace. I think the Angels were also interested in him because he's somewhat of a local product from Southern California. I mean, Max Stassi didn't play barely for them. Look, I wanted Realmuto. He was my number one choice. But if the dollars they spent on him enables them to go out and also add the other components that they want to, then I'm okay with it. Look, I think the games you saw, he was terrible in Detroit. There's no question. But I think a lot of the work he did behind the scenes was evident over the last year and a half to 2 years.
The last part about that, Jan, the missing part of this is we don't know if the Mets tried to trade for a catcher because it's not like these are the only 2 catchers in baseball. And I actually heard from someone in Boston you might be able to trade for Christian Vasquez, who I would love. Yep. So, I don't even know if they pursued that.
Yeah, he was rumored the last couple of years last year. I think Vasquez was rumored to be potentially on the block. Though remember, he came out of nowhere also to a certain extent. I mean, 2-3 years ago, Vasquez was viewed as being a horrific catcher and questioned as to whether or not he'd be a AAA type of guy. And he had major leap in his game about 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they have Sandy Leon, so they probably feel that they can trade him and recover. Now, I'm going to save our music thing that I was mentioning, Russ, for tomorrow when Ak is there. Is here. But let me say this: the news about the Cleveland Indians changing their team name A lot of people are very happy about that. Now I understand that the Washington Redskins name was offensive to some people, and I don't think the Indians is offensive, but okay, I'm not Native American, so I'm not the right I'm not the right person to comment on that. So the Indians, the Cleveland organization, has announced that this week they are going to change the team name. I really sincerely hope that it's the Cleveland Spiders.
Actually, they're just doing Cleveland baseball team for this year, and then they might change it for next year, is what they're saying.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, but
I heard it on ESPN. It doesn't mean it's legit.
No, they just came out with that earlier today. That they're not changing anything right now.
This is the thing. There's talk about in Washington them keeping Washington Football Club or Washington Football Team, whatever it is. I don't mind that. That's fine. I think
it's no different than the soccer names when you think about it.
Right. I mean, Toronto FC or NYC FC. That's fine. No. So if they do that for a year, fine. But I really because the Cleveland Spiders was the name before the current name.
I know.
And
I'm good with it. I just don't know from a marketing standpoint if that's where they want to go. They could have some fun with it, but in general, are you going to put like a giant spider on the jersey?
No, you keep the C on the hat, and then maybe you have some sort of just spiders or
block letters across or I mean, again, it used to be called the Naps years ago also, which was the other nickname.
Right, for Napoli. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're not going to do that now.
No. Spiders, I think, has a better shot of getting. Look, people have railed on the cancel culture causing this, and it's clear that in Atlanta there was always used to be pushback over the nickname. There was pushback in Cleveland, maybe not as prominent as it was now.
It's Florida been for State, about 10 years.
Florida State with the tomahawk chop being utilized there, though Seminoles was clearly akin to the name that was based upon what was down in Florida. So. Yeah. It depends on your viewpoint associated with it. There are probably some Native Americans who are fine with the nickname, but it seems like a lot of them were concerned that a lot of their concerns were not being listened to by the organization over time.
I think it was the mascot. The mascot was a stereotype.
Seminoles is the tribe that was in Florida. So, I mean, if there's an association, like if there's some relationship between the school and the tribe, then they sign off on it. That's fine. If they haven't and it's offensive to them.
No, but Mike, like Chief Wahoo, he was a stereotype.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, like if the Yankees had a mascot named Hebe, I think all of a sudden, the next day there'd be a lot of people calling up the Yankees having a problem.
Wow. Well, I hope not. I don't know how to recover from that one. Well, we're here. Okay, so. The Cleveland thing is understandable. The Washington change is understandable. The thing, I don't know if you heard about this, and then we'll start the show. Braden Holtby did his goalie mask. The goalie mask was it was commissioned. The artist was in Sweden. The mask had it's not Native American, but Native Canadian designs on it, and that particular not tribe. I'm drawing a blank on the First Nations. They were pissed off that they co-opted that design for his mask. That a Native Canadian did not do it. That they commissioned it out to somebody in Sweden. So Holtby had to walk it back, and now he's going to have to redesign his mask or have somebody from that particular. I mean,
is the issue the design itself, or who he utilized to do the design?
Right. The issue is who he utilized to design it. Right. It's like
I don't have a problem with them saying that. I actually think Holtby could have really thought this through and not gone with his normal mask guy if he really wanted to do it. I don't think it's that far-fetched that you could have gotten it done the way that they wanted it done. I don't think that's that hard to do.
Yeah, now here's the blue shirt Buddha is asking. I don't think the Blackhawks are ever changing their name. They've come out and they've said, well, it's not, they've explained the historical background of it.
Yeah.
There's apparently I know that with the Atlanta Braves, like you said, there's been some controversy, and that's more, I think, akin to the tomahawk chop in Atlanta.
Yeah, with the Blackhawks, from what I remember, there was an actual Indian from that tribe that was very heroic, and that was all a part of naming the name, and that's why nobody has a problem.
I think it was named after, because I'm reading Ton Radham's book and Chris Garner's book on the jerseys, and they go through the evolution of the names.
Yeah.
The Blackhawks, I believe, was a unit in the military. And the person who ended up being the owner of the team at the time was, I think, in that unit, and it was two separate words, and then they combined it. So I don't think it necessarily had a specific reference to Native Americans. I think it was more so from a military perspective in terms of the unit that was used. I'll go back and confirm it because I just literally read it a couple days ago.
But they use an Indian picture, though. So that's
the person who designed it was, I think, his wife originally. It ended up being his ex-wife, designed the logo.
I'd
have to take a look at why that logo was used.
They did release a press release giving sort of the historical background of it, and it had to do with an Indian tribe. So maybe it had maybe the unit was named after that.
Maybe.
So I don't know. I'm not aware of the history, but I don't believe that there are any plans to change that. And again, how far are we going to go if we're going to eliminate every ethnic reference because it offends certain people?
Well, I agree.
So what I'm reading here, it says Major Frederick McLaughlin founded the franchise, named his team the Blackhawks after the U.S. Army unit he served in during World War I, the 86th Infantry Division, also known as the Black Hawk Division. The unit was named after Black Hawk, the Sauk leader of the eponymous Black Hawk War of 1832.
There you go.
That's why.
So okay. So
we all had a little piece of it, but we didn't quite know.
Right. So I mean, Bill Foley named the Golden Knights after he was a West Point grad.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're gonna eliminate Blackhawks, you're gonna eliminate Golden Knights because they sort of came from the same genealogy. I mean, so it's like, let's right. Moose Jaw. Somebody says Moose Jaw Warriors. I mean, yeah, at a certain point, I mean, I don't think that these names, the Cleveland Indians with a cartoon Indian smiling,
that was going to change.
Right, but okay, the Golden State Warriors or the Moose Jaw Warriors, how is that offensive?
I don't think it is, but I don't know. I'd have to really look at it. I'll have to ask Jan when he's back about if that book talk about how the Red Wings got their logo, because that
does. It's a winged wheel.
Yeah, the winged wheel. Do they? You know where it came from?
Yes.
Yeah, from Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I still don't know how they got away with that.
Yeah, and finally, let me just with my usual cause when it comes to the Buffalo Bills being on network television and the laziness of said networks, when they hey, at least they didn't use the B-roll that's been stored in their memory, in their computer banks. They went out and got original shots of Niagara Falls instead of ones that had been filmed 10 years ago. But Chris Collinsworth, Jan, last night, as they show, the blue tinted or blue lighted Niagara Falls with the Skylon Tower, which is a smaller version of the CN Tower in the background, Chris Collinsworth said, "Gee, I didn't realize Toronto was so close."
So he's not a Mensa student. Collinsworth has made a lot of – look, I loved Collinsworth as a receiver. I used to watch him at University of Florida.
Sure, he was a good player.
Loved him when he was with the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly has made certain comments, especially recently, that call into question whether or not at times he's really fully in tune with what's going on. His comment about women in football was not well received, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And came across as very misogynistic.
He was just horrible last Super Bowl. I wrote a whole article about it.
Yep. So him making that comment about Toronto and Buffalo probably shouldn't be taken as a major surprise.
But I suggested Mike just go to the head of NBC and talk to him about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be very open to taking my phone call. Hello, Hockey World.
Well, if enough people to complain on Twitter, he will.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, December 14th, 2020.
I'm Jan Levine.
I've been to Niagara Falls. I'm Russ Cohen.
I'm Michael Lagello. Slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. That's
Abbott and Costello for the
that's Three Stooges reference.
Three Stooges. Well,
No seltzer? No seltzer?
Three Stooges.
Yeah, hey, you have some seltzer, bubbly.
There you go.
Okay.
Bublé, as I like to refer to it.
Bublé, yes.
The Michael Bublé.
Yes. Okay, let's start with what hasn't happened, which is we hoped by today there would be some announcement. It doesn't appear that there would be announcement today regarding the return. Yes, I know, regarding the return to play plan, but it appears, Russ, from every indication, and Chris Johnston tweeted this out this morning, that basically the final touches and the final areas of disagreement are being worked out, and that it should be announced at some point this week.
It's moving as swiftly as a steam engine train, Mike.
Yes. Protocols, dates, rules.
It's not like this is an easy thing where you're deciding one thing, guys. I mean, there is a
they had a
lot of planning that has to go on to get this right.
But they had months.
Should they have started a month ago?
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not
no disagreement.
detailed.
Yeah, and this is the thing where I think.
Thank you, Blue Shirt Booter. No, hold on, Mike. It was Abbott and Costello, not the.
No, it was not. It was not.
No, it was Abbott and Costello.
No, it was the Three Stooges. I saw it on the Three Stooges.
Unless maybe they both did it.
Maybe they both did but I know the Three Stooges did it. Curly was the one who did Niagara Falls slow, or Mo was the one who said it, and Curly was the one in a box.
And Abbott was the one who squirted Costello when they did it.
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
right.
we're having
I know for a fact it was the Three
Costello. Can we move on now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Distractions. Always distractions. Okay. Apparently, some of the areas where there's disagreement still, there are going to be players that choose to opt out. Now, Jan, do you remember in the NFL whether these players were still being paid if they opted out?
I'm not sure.
I know in Major League Baseball that they were.
Baseball was much more publicized in terms of it. I don't really think there's been a lot of – let me raise that. In football, I don't think there's been a lot of players who have opted out. Or
the Patriots had a couple.
But there hasn't been any real prominent players.
I don't know. The Patriots –
You're right. So I don't think C.J. Mosley is actually getting paid.
No,
I don't believe
Mosley's
he's
not getting paid.
Okay.
And remember, the cornerback for the Patriots is an all-pro. I forget his name. He opted out.
Right.
Not McCourty.
No. McCourty's there. Not Gil. No, go. McCourty's there.
Gilmore's playing, so
right.
It's somebody else from their.
I know Star Latulle, the Bills, the defensive tackle, opted out, but I
don't believe he's getting paid. I think he forfeited the salary.
Yes,
but Major League Baseball, they did get paid. They opted out, didn't get counted against the cap, but they did get paid.
Okay, but let's be fair. When you opt out in the NFL, if you already got your big fat signing bonus up front, you're not losing much.
Yeah, he wasn't losing a ton of salary in terms of Mosley.
And that's the other question, because what they're saying is
sorry, Mike. It's Patrick Chung, Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower.
Right, the Patriots had 3 or 4 guys, not just a couple. They had 3 or 4.
If a player opts out, whether they get some money, no money, that's apparently one area of disagreement. I know that in baseball, if they did get paid, it didn't count against the cap. So that was, so there was an opening there for, like, say, for example, the Dodgers. If Price cost over $20 million, they were able to sign somebody or trade for somebody when he opted out. But that's one area of disagreement between the two sides, or at least an area that's being negotiated. I mean, Russ,
I think they did get paid in baseball to opt out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. But the question is, I will preface this. I'm not starting this rumor. It's not I'm just using this as an example because I'm aware of him being a heavy signing bonus guy. If Austin Matthews opted out, he got paid over $11 million in signing bonus and has a league minimum salary. He got paid that on July 1. So if he opts out, does he only lose the $700,000, or does he lose?
No, he would only lose the $700,000 like that.
Right.
That's it.
There's no clawback or recapture associated if you're opting out.
Except for escrow. I mean, he's going to probably pay back the 30.
That still was going to have to be negotiated also, depending on the percentage amount, which was one of the controversies. But that's not going to be the case anymore right now because they've tabled all the financial considerations.
Well, see, here's one thing that Elliot Friedman said about this. Right now, if they're keeping all the breakdowns of escrow and deferment from the agreement, the memorandum of understanding that was agreed to in July. But as he said, at some point in time, there is going to be there is a deficit, and the money is going to be due. And what that means is there are owners right now that are concerned that the 6-year CBA, there's a clause in it that if there's a certain deficit in terms of funds, that a 7th year kicks in on this CBA. And if the money isn't made up, then the deficit is going to be carried over to the next CBA. Now, okay, we can say 7 years down the road, who cares right now? I'm sure the game's going to grow. We don't know. I mean, they're saying the deficit between what the players are going to owe the owners could be as much as $1 billion.
Okay, but but here's where I'll argue back on that. I just read an article, I guess it was Sports Business Weekly's talking about the next contract and even similar other contracts offshoots after that for the NHL. And now Fox might be interested when they lose NASCAR, and ESPN wants some streaming rights. And so if you start to add up this next NHL package, it's going to blow away even what NBC gave them. So I don't really think they're in trouble, because I think the one thing the NHL did really well in the last 10 years was digitally. And we always talked about it. We always talked how they reached out to the fans well with that, with videos and everything else. And they're one of the better leagues digitally. And so I think that has helped them, and that's going to help them on their next contract.
Well, I mean, Dan, the networks are looking for content. We know that if when the NHL gets back to an 82-game schedule, they can provide a lot of content from October to June. But I think that their model has to be the NBA model, which is to go with multiple networks, to have multiple deals. NBA has ABC, ESPN, TNT, TBS. And then they have their own NBA TV, and then regional contracts. The NHL's got to do that. If NBC wants in on it, that's fine, but they got to get ESPN or Fox Sports 1 or somebody else in there to make extra money. And the thing is, they have to make more than $200 million a year when the NBA is getting $1 billion a year, or at least more than that in revenue. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, when we talked about the cap, part of the implication is that they only had a certain revenue stream now, and the look forward was that we're going to, as Russ said, blow away the current contract with multiple streams of information and data. So ESPN, regardless of if they're on one of their ESPN or ESPN Plus or any of them, they're going to be on the streaming, which is the ESPN Plus part of the regular network, to try to increase the subscriber base there. Fox Sports is looking to kind of grab I wouldn't say stranglehold, but a foothold somewhere with some really kind of major sport. Hockey could be that sport. NBC is likely going to, because as we've seen, there's a CNBC, there's MSNBC, all the ones that they use for the Olympics. They have that infrastructure already set up to be able to use. So expanding the network and the footprint to utilize 3 or 4 different kind of networks and bringing in revenue that way is a way to make up somewhat for the pandemic until we get back to a sense of normalcy with fan bases showing up in arenas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just going to mention what you just put in our private chat. So the AP is reporting that the owner, the Cleveland owner, Paul Dolan, who's a relative of the Dolans that own the Knicks and the Rangers, that the team will be dropping the name, but will continue this year as the Indians into 2021, and then probably change the name next year. I would assume it's probably for advertising. It's too late to change those contracts, and that's the reason why. But okay, so
and just for people, with podcasts and everything out there, don't start up a TP podcast or anything, and don't do it, because you can see it happening. I could already see it. People not liking this, and then they start with these kinds of names for their podcast.
Well, if they change their name to the Spiders, they can name their mascot Boris for the Who song, Boris the Spider.
Can we mute him?
Yeah, please.
No, I'm in control. Sorry. One of the other things that Friedman mentioned regarding the potential agreement to return to play is an agreement for expanded playoffs. Now, I'm hoping that this is the end of Gary Bettman's iron-fisted control and his disagreement with the expanded playoffs, which we know that he has had, and Kevin Allen referenced on Friday. But this league needs revenue, and apparently they're saying in a 56-game schedule, with the schedule being shorter than 82, that it's fair to expand the playoffs. But I want to expand the playoffs or 82-game schedules and not just 56-game schedules. But, I mean, is anybody opposed to a 20-game or 20-team playoff with 4 playing 5 to get into the first round? I don't think that's really obtrusive.
No, I would think that kind of makes sense. And what I was thinking of also, you can have like a best-of-3 playing round. And those guys would be the bottom 2 seeds in each conference and then move on from there.
Yeah, I can't say no because every league needs revenue now. So it's like, if that's what it is, fine.
Okay, we have theme music for our World Junior update, and Russ will provide the context. Here we go.
Ooh, when will you realize Vienna waits for you?
And that's because the Euro plane yesterday got stuck in Vienna because they put 3 teams on a plane and all of their hockey luggage. And I guess they finally figured out they weren't going to make it to Edmonton. I don't know what they did. They probably just had a plane for their cargo, but they did apparently make it.
It must have been fuel consumption because what? If there was a weight problem with all their equipment, the plane would have not been able to take off.
You would think that, but maybe they just felt like, we could do it. And then at some point they realized with calculations, it's not going to happen.
I mean, first of all, I'm sorry. I look for opportunities to bash, and here I think it's justified. I understand cost, especially with the fact that there are not going to be fans in Red Deer and Edmonton, and that's a source of revenue for the IIHF. But Are you kidding me that you had to pile 3 teams on one plane, and God forbid if one player was positive after testing negative, because we've had false positives, we've had false negatives. If one guy is positive on that plane with the air circulating, you could get multiple infections because you put 3 teams on one plane. What idiocy.
It's possible, but here's how they're doing the bubble. There's 11 days to go till Christmas Day. They're going to have 10 teams. They arrived, and they're going to have a week quarantine procedure before being able to join the bubble. So this is even before the bubble. They're going to have a 1-week bubble on home ice during their camp where they're tested at least 3 times. A few players and staff members from teams were not able to join. We know that. That was Sweden, but Sweden did add additional coaches that were a part of it, and they elevated them. And then the other guys, I think, are going to work from home. This is a big undertaking. They're going to have single rooms. Players, coaches, officials, and other staff in bubble can't leave the secure zone. That includes the hotel, the arena, and the practice rink that are in proximity to each other, in many cases without the need to leave the building. So they're pretty much stuck there. Participants are limited in the hotel to their team's floor, as well as meeting rooms and meal rooms assigned to the team. If somebody leaves the secure zone, they'll not be able to return and will have to travel home. Okay, so the first basic question is, who's going to know if a player walks out of the hotel to smoke a cigarette at 3 o'clock in the morning? As an example, we won't say a player, we'll say a coach.
Well, they probably have tracking on these people. They probably have either tracking on their phones.
Yeah.
They could have something like a wristband or something like that they're tracking people. So it's very possible that they would, if that does, it would set off some sort of security alert. So I would think that they're not leaving anything to chance.
And because I know you were worried about this, and this means everybody out there listening, spitting, open nose blows like Reggie Jackson,
snot rockets, yes,
handshakes, they're all forbidden.
Yeah. Okay. So when a player scores a goal and he skates by the bench and they all fist bump, they do that.
That's permitted because that's not a handshake out with no coverage, because they're going to be regularly They're going to take care of the benches and the equipment, and they're all going to be regularly disinfected, except for a small number of staff of the rights holders, broadcasters, and producers that are part of the bubble. Everybody else will have to follow the same rules. Video calls are going to be the way they do meetings and the way they do interviews. This is the way it's going.
Okay. We'll play a little game on this one. I'm not going to, I'll read off some of the names, but of the 31 NHL teams, only one team has nobody represented in the World Junior. And I will give you a hint. This team has won a Stanley Cup in the last 5 years.
Chicago Blackhawks.
No, they won in 2015.
Damn it. But that is 5 years.
No, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Last 5 years. We're in
2020. That's what made me think.
The last 5 Stanley Cup champions.
Let me think. I don't know. I don't care.
The St. Louis Blues. No representatives in the World Junior.
I mean, it's not necessarily an indictment.
No.
Sometimes it all has to do with availability of players,
right?
Players who are in good with, like, let's say it's USA Hockey, those kinds of things, because it doesn't mean they don't have good players.
Right. They could have 5 18-year-olds that get chosen next year as 19-year-olds.
Correct.
I'll do a quick thing here. Dallas Stars have one player, Thomas Harley.
Right.
There are 7 teams that have 2 players. Edmonton has Dylan Holloway and Broberg. I'm just going through the more prominent players. Vancouver has Podkolzin. Washington has McMichael. 6 teams have 3 players. Soderstrom, the defenseman for Arizona.
Yep.
Chikov, the first-round pick for Columbus. Caden Gooley, Cole Caulfield for Montreal. Philadelphia, Bobby Brink and Cam York.
Yep.
Vegas with Brendan Brisson and Peyton Krebs, Cole Perfetti and Vinny Hiola for Winnipeg. San Jose, Ottawa, the Rangers, Colorado, Chicago, Carolina, Calgary, and Buffalo have 4. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn, both for Canada. Ryan Suzuki for Carolina. Kirby Dotch for Chicago. Mm-hmm. Owen Byram and Alex Newhook for Colorado. Braden Schneider. Is it Berard? I'm sorry, I forgot his first name.
Brett Berard.
Brett Berard, thank you. Jake Sanderson and Stützle for Ottawa. Okay, and there are the leader is LA with 9 players, and they had 10, but one got scratched or was the last cut for Sweden. Byfield, Bjornfoot, Kaliev, Turcotte are the prominent ones, but they have 9. Detroit has 7, and 5 of them are Swedes. What a shock!
Yeah, I mean, look, when I did rankings, I said the Kings were by far out in the West, the most stocked, and they might be the most stocked in hockey. There's some arguable ones, but it's tremendous the guys that they have.
Yeah, we'll take some questions in the chat, and
some of them are going to play this year, like Velarde will play more and stuff, but they're loaded. Detroit's loaded, but it's going to take a little while for them to become a better team and some of these guys to mature. When you look at the Rangers, they do have a lot of guys. I still don't think theirs is the best, but having Lafreniere helps it to be close to the best. But I don't think it's as good as the Kings. I don't, but I think it's close.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the tournament. I mean, I'm
Me too.
A little bit of a disappointment that Nick Robertson won't be playing for Team USA, but at least it seems like the Leafs let Team USA know in a while back that it was very possible he wasn't going to be made available depending on when the NHL season started, because they think he has a realistic chance of making the club, which is understandable since, he played in 4 playoff games. But
yeah, I was on the call Saturday and John Van Beesbroek talked about it. And I mean, Robertson was self-quarantining, so that's how much he really wanted to be on the team. So you have to give him credit for self-quarantining, and now it was all for naught, basically. But it'll help him, on the Leafs end of things. But I think, it's a loss. I mean, he would have been on a top line or second line for sure, easily. The U.S. has lost some players. Master Simone had a good chance of making the team. He didn't get a chance. Beecher was going to make it. Bordelot's a massive loss. I mean, that's a kid who really can play. And so, but they have good depth. Yeah. I don't know if they're in the second slot now, though. I think Russia may have overtaken them. So
yeah, I think for Canada to lose this, either Spencer Knight or Askarov are going to need to stand on their head. So I think Canada's goaltending is average, but they've won with average goaltending before because their forwards and their defense are fantastic. But you can always get beaten by a hot goaltender. So
I knew, and I had tweeted this on Saturday before the call that I knew Nate Lehman, the U.S. coach, just knowing him from how he coaches in college, was going to build that U.S. team from the goal out with Spencer Knight. And of course, now they have 9 defensemen, right? So they're clearly going to do that and play certain guys in certain positions, match up not in certain positions, but in certain situations, and match it up certain ways. That's all well and good, but you do still have to score. And scoring was a problem last time. And honestly, on the call, and this is a little worrisome to me, they're putting a lot of pressure on Caulfield and Kaliev because they're the 2 pure goal scorers on the team.
Right.
But of course, you can't score goals unless guys are really setting you up, and they have plenty of guys to do it, but you hope that the chemistry is right. But that is a lot of pressure on these 2 guys to be the main goal scorers. I will say that.
Yeah. All right. I'll take some questions here. I saw this one earlier, and I wanted to comment on it. From Funky, did you hear what Brian Burke said? We should trade Nylander for a defenseman making similar money. Ryan Ellis, ? Burke must be watching this show. Well, I mean, I've been writing about that for 3 years. And I think, and I've said this before, I believe, unless they have a ridiculous amount of success in the playoffs this year, I believe this is the last year that William Nylander will be in blue and white. Now, I said that last year, I said that the year before, but I think the realities of the salary cap and the fact that not only do they need to add a defenseman if they don't have success, but the fact that Morgan Rielly will be 1 year away from being a UFA, Zach Hyman will possibly be a UFA, and they'll need to take care of their goaltending situation. They'll open up $5 million if they walk away from Frederick Anderson, but if they want to re-sign him or they want to bring in a goaltender that may cost them just as much, they may have to reallocate the money that they're spending. And I think of that core 4, the only one that is really tradable in terms of getting equal value back is Nylander, because his salary is only a little under $7 million, and I'm assuming he's going to have a similar year that he had last year and score the equivalent of what 30 goals would be in a 82 game schedule. If he doesn't, then his value goes down. If he scores better than that, then his value goes up. But I think that if they don't at least get to the second round of the playoffs, that they're going to make major changes. So,
I like this. Bada Bing puts the Rust division: Rangers, Sabres, Columbus, Habs, Preds, Oilers, Canucks, and the Islanders.
Are these all the teams that you hate?
I don't know. I'm not sure what he feels there. But I guess based on the way the show goes sometimes, it's not that far off. As far as what you said with Burke, I think what he said is true, but I think the problem is you can't trade Nylander for Ryan Ellis straight up because they won't do it. Ellis is worth more than Nylander to a team right now. You can trade for a defenseman in that price range, but you're going to end up getting somebody a little lesser than Ryan Ellis because it's just not a straight exchange. Nylander is a very good player, but when you get past his goal scoring, and if you're not playing him at center, which you're not, there's not a lot of other things he does, and he hasn't shown a great proficiency in the playoffs yet either. So, again, I think you can get a second pairing defenseman, but I don't think you can get like a 1, a 2, or a 3. I think you'd be looking at a 4.
funky, and I didn't hear this, but let's riff on this because Henrik Zetterberg is on IR. He's eligible to go on LTIR, but because the Red Wings are $15 million under the cap or something like that, I'm looking up on Cap Friendly, $9.5 million under the cap. That money will stay on IR and count against the cap, whereas if it was a team like Tampa Bay or Toronto who's up against it, they would put them on the LTIR and they would open up that cap space. He's saying that that Friedman mentioned Zetterberg to Tampa as an LTIR as a rumor, and I'm assuming that would mean that a Tyler Johnson or a Killorn or somebody like that would come back. Okay, that's possible, but I still don't think, because Killorn has, I think, 3 years left. I know that Johnson has 4 years left. Yes, for this year, it's a wash. In fact, you're probably saving money. Well, I know that this is the thing. Zetterberg's real money, I think, is $1 million, but the cap hit is 6.08. So, but for Johnson, who's got 4 years left on his contract, I'm just looking it up right now. He's making, a little under and a little above $5 million the last 4 years. So the real money that Detroit is paying is higher. If you're Julian Brisebois, you're going to have to give up something significant in terms of a draft pick or a prospect.
No, a top prospect. Yzerman's not doing it for a draft pick.
Yeah.
He's only doing it for a top prospect and a real good one. You can't just throw Taylor Radish and say, oh yeah, this will be worth your while. He's not going to do it. There's no motivation for Yzerman to do it. Yzerman is back with the Red Wings. There's no motivation for Yzerman to just help his old team because everybody's like, well, he could just help his old team. There's no motivation for that. He's not going to do it that way. He's got new owners he has to answer to. He's not going to help out an old team. So he is going to have to get a top prospect. And if he doesn't, he's not doing it.
And unless he's flipping Johnson or Killorn, if that's who he's getting from Tampa Bay, unless he's flipping them someplace else for a top prospect, Johnson's 30 and Killorn is 31. And by the time Detroit is ready to compete for a playoff spot, they're probably 33 or 34 years old. So that doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, I
think how hard it is to flip players right now.
Right. And say for example, that the only thing that they do is they trade Zetterberg's contract to Tampa for a draft pick. Okay, so that it would have to probably be a first. And then they would put him on LTIR, and it would open up $6 million of cap space for this year because they're right up against it. Well, actually, I think they're above it right now. Let me see. They're $2 million above the cap right now. So, a little under $2 million above the cap. So if they traded for Zetterberg, that would open up $4 million in cap space. That's not enough to re-sign Cirelli, and not enough to re-sign Cirelli and Cernak unless Cirelli takes a 1-year deal like we were talking about. So there's still so much that it would have to be done that I just don't think it's possible.
No, I don't either. I think what's going to end up happening is, as an example, like if it's Killorn, Brisebois is going to have to trade Killorn and like Alex Barboulay and probably like a second-round pick and take back basically a guy on his ELC who's a decent prospect. Not even an A prospect. He's going to have to take a beating like that.
Yeah. No, we saw what happened with Carolina got a number 1 draft pick from Toronto to take 1 year of Marlowe's contract, and and they were going to buy him out. So they the price of renting $6.25 million in cap space from Carolina was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, and Ryan Ellis is 29. And I really don't think that after trading Subban and after trading Seth Jones, that, they're going to go away from that core group of Yossi, Ekholm, and Ellis, and maybe Fabro if he starts to bloom this year. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Randy asks, do you think Dumba could be traded to the Leafs?
I mean, he could be.
Yeah.
I think the issue for this one is what, 1 year or 2 years?
Oh, he's got more than that because I think he's got 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, let me double check. Dumba, has 3 years left at $6 million.
All right, so he's got 3 at 6. So I mean, yes, it's possible, but Minnesota's gonna have to take some salary back. It's not like the Leafs can just take that salary. So
well, I'm assuming Flamester is basically saying that it would be a Nylander deal.
yeah,
Like
I mean,
Nylander.
yes, that could happen. Yes.
Yeah. Again, I don't think that kind of deal is going to happen until after this season.
Right.
Okay. Somebody just said something really weird in the chat. Let me see if there are any other questions before we end the show. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that stupidity. Okay. Let's see. Penalty. Islanders. Mike, Islanders and Oilers are the teams that you hate. No, I hate more teams than that. But it doesn't affect my opinion. You know, like I'm giving you the straight skinny when it comes to those teams. I just admit that I hate them. It's like some people, they hate teams and they don't admit that they hate them because they think it makes their opinion biased. Okay, we'll end it there. We should be back with ACT tomorrow. We will likely have Joe Yerdon back to talk about Niagara Falls being on Bill's.
We're not talking about that again. No. Joe doesn't want to talk about it either.
Yeah, sure. We'll definitely talk about that. For the departed Jan Levine, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Angello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just